So I've decided to do this thing. But if you saw the previous video, you already knew that. Well, before we actually start, let's take a moment to consider what we can expect from a game like this. The game's description states that there are RPG elements present, and the fact that the creator is who he is somehow tells me that it won't be a slouch with AI chases either. Something that intrigues me just a little though is the customization aspect that the game promises. But there's only one way to find out where all this will lead. Let's begin the game. The very first thing you're asked to do is pick your difficulty level. For demonstration purposes, I believe I can be excused if I pick the filthy casual option, even though it doesn't really matter as it can be changed at any time and affects nothing outside of gameplay. There's the incomplete Lovecraft quote we've already seen, followed by the character creation screen. In here we can choose a character's gender, which no doubt true to life is completely aesthetic, as well as their profession. We can choose to be a detective, a journalist, or a priest, with each class possessing a unique special item and set of skills that they start with, as well as certain attributes. And like in any well-designed RPG, you are forced to choose all of these things before being given any clear notion of what their impact on the actual gameplay will be. For the purposes of this playthrough, I've chosen to play as a female detective. Having made our choice, we're ready to delve right in and face the horrors of Mythos. The first of these will be the painfully slow introductory text. After waiting about a minute for that to go by, we are immediately faced by an even greater terror, the voice acting.
Good evening. I am Professor Harrison Blacktail from the university.
I can't say I'm the best versed person on 1930s horror flicks, but I can't recall any specific instance in which Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff or John Carradine had to record variations of a cheesy British voice with a tinny microphone. There's also the fact that although the sound management here is mostly done right, there are a couple times when it isn't, and skipping through dialogue makes the sound bites overlap noticeably.
Of course. I had no doubt someone of your expertise already knew of such a horrific place, even though it...
As far as the plot goes, it's fairly straightforward stuff. This doughy, unshaven man is apparently a university professor by the name of Harrison Blacktail, and some of his students have gone missing while investigating the shady and mysterious Harborough Asylum. As he quickly explains, only our main character, a detective/journalist/priest, is the right man/woman to look into it.
Why, there is nobody else with your experience who would help at such short notice.
Incidentally, these variations in the character's identity are noted in the written dialogue, but the voice acting clips feature ambiguous dialogue that ends up not matching with the text.
As soon as I heard you were staying here at the Royal Arm Hotel, I knew I had found the right person.
That seems like an odd combination of things to have, but surely it's nothing more than a testament to versatility. Beyond that, this opening scene allows you to make a few dialogue choices, establishing the protagonist to be as much of a dickhead as you want. How the character behaves in these scenes does have consequences, but they will only become evident in a long time from now, and in a way that you might not even notice. Regardless, our chosen protagonist accepts Blacktail's offer, and soon arrives at the Asylum grounds. After a quick instructions info dump that does not mention the default RPG Maker interaction keys Z and X, even though they still work, we set about on our investigation. It seems the Asylum's front gate is locked, so instead we wander down here to the Watchman's cabin, where we can try out the handy-dandy spooky bone cursor that lets us easily see what we can and can't interact with. This is probably the game's most useful and unique feature, albeit one that is extremely commonplace and easy to implement in adventure-style games. If our character is a detective, they will immediately be able to examine a set of scratch marks on this desk in the corner through the investigation ability, and gain a small amount of experience for doing so. This might seem a bit strange right now, but it'll make a bit more sense once the experience mechanics are explained. Talking to the Watchman himself results in another batch of stellar voice acting being burnt into our eardrums.
I'm sorry, sir. I've only got the one key. I'd give it to you, but it's more than me job's worth if it gets lost.
However, he doesn't seem too keen on letting us have the key to the front gate, so we're instead pointed in the direction of the juvenile ward, to the right of the asylum's main entrance.
Of the asylum, Just go past the entrance and follow the path around to the east. Eventually you'll find it.
As we make our way towards this place, we catch sight of some kind of orange dog sliding off into the horizon, before we pick up our first healing item of the game, a bottle of painkillers which heal for 50% of our maximum health. Just a moment later, we see that our entry into the juvenile ward is blocked off by a door, connected to a keypad with a 3-digit code, which, surprisingly enough, is not 666. Rather, the code can be inferred through examining the 3 worn-out keys, which, after a bit of trial and error, yield a combination of 816, which opens the door. The inside of the ward is rather a dark and dreary place, but it also houses a rather important element, our very first save room, where we can spend the XP to increase our attributes and gain new skills, all of which is helpfully explained by this in-game playing manual. Since at this point we have yet to experience a single battle, it's kind of difficult to decide how best to spend what little experience we've managed to gather so far, which, as the game lets us know, is a resource that exists only in a limited amount in the vein of Resident Evil. However, the fact that battles exist at all in this game leads me to believe that spending a few points on attributes can't hurt, so at first I give that a try. Boy, am I in the wrong. I feel like a better explanation of experience will be in order soon, but for now let's just take this at face value and continue. Heading to the left door on the hallway leads to what looks like a small classroom, where we can find an old patient's diary. The contents of this diary detail a child's experience as a patient in the ward, and how the other children were apparently taken away by the director, Dr. Pilkington, if they do badly in class. Even though Pilkington's wife seems determined not to let that happen to the writer, the patient soon stumbles upon a child's cut-open corpse in the operating theatre, which leaves him unable to concentrate on his schoolwork. Soon after that, the writing stops, as it is wont to do. This diary is at least a decent exercise in building atmosphere, which is more than I can say for the second dog sighting. Since all of the doors along the top wall appear to be locked, we instead head to the end of the hallway, which leads to an operating theatre. In here is a book that we can translate if we have the occult lore skill. This produces another text, this time detailing a summoning ritual for the Elder Ones, which requires a sacrifice of flesh and a suitable vessel to be offered up during the time of a comet's passing. Quite a fitting piece of literature to find inside a mental institution. At the far end of the theatre is the office key, which, upon being collected, triggers the appearance of something in the room. But fear not, for any tension brought about by that sudden entrance is quickly mitigated by the appearance of the battle tutorial. The combat in this game works about how you'd expect in your average turn-based RPG, with the unique feature of regenerating stamina as a requirement to execute special moves, and of course the fact that your opponents are long-necked abominations. This introductory battle isn't too bad, but it does start to let you know that if you want to survive further encounters, it's quite necessary to build up your attributes. I feel like this is a good time to stop and take a moment to explain how experience works in this game. There are 2 basic ways to obtain experience, by defeating groups of monsters in battle, and by making good use of our 4 non-combat skills in the field. The battle method is rather self-explanatory, but difficult to keep up with due to the steep curve of enemy difficulty from one area to another, and the scarcity of both experience and healing items. The other method is a bit more interesting. As previously noted, we can spend experience in save rooms to not only increase attributes, but learn new skills as well. The attributes themselves are pretty standard RPG fare, translating to strength, physical defense, magic defense, and such. The skills include special battle moves which require stamina to execute, but there are also the more unusual 4 non-combat skills: investigation, subterfuge, occult lore, and persuasion. These come in 3 increasingly expensive levels, with each one having a certain range of objects and situations in which they are effective. Considering their cost and how rare experience is, they might seem like an unwise choice at first, but as it happens, the characters can also get experience from successfully putting these skills to use, as demonstrated when we examined the desk in the watchman's cabin and translated the book in the operating theatre. What's more, putting these skills to use in certain places can allow the player to skip some key items, thereby reducing the risk of enemy encounters. With mechanics like these, the idea of a possible pacifist run might come to mind, but that ends up being more of a theory than a practice. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's just continue on for now and see what happens. From this point on, further enemy encounters can occur if you run into one of the monster sprites on the field. But at this point, they move at such a slow, lumbering pace, and there's enough room to maneuver around them, that it's simple to avoid fights altogether. At any rate, we can use the extra experience we got from that first fight to acquire the subterfuge skill, which enables us to pick locks. Last time I checked, subterfuge meant something else, but I guess in this world of eldritch horrors, deceiving locks into opening for us can be a thing? Anyway, we can try out our new ability over in the classroom, which is now populated by more long-necked dogs. In here we can find a box locked with a simple lock, which, upon being opened, yields some spare wiring. Afterwards, we can head to the office from the ward entrance, which can now be unlocked with the office key. Inside is another long-necked green dog creature prancing around near a corpse. Luckily, said creature will patiently wait as we read the blood-stained diary that is also lying on the ground nearby. It should be noted that this kind of thing is new to Dark Gaia's games, as for instance, monsters in One Night would keep advancing towards a player while dialogue boxes were present, despite being unable to actually engage them until the dialogue ended. Anyway, it seems that the summoning ritual mentioned in the other document was already performed, but it is assumed that something went wrong due to the appearance of all the deadly monsters on the Asylum grounds. The deadly monsters which can't actually damage us right now because our defense is too high. We also learn that Pilkington's wife was holding onto the spare wiring we've already obtained, which we need to fix the mechanism to open the cell doors, and that one of the cells contains a particularly strong monster, as well as the key to the asylum we came here to find in the first place. Convenient. At the top part of this room, there is also a desk locked by a code, which is said to be Mrs. Pilkington's birthday. This can be deduced from the patient's diary as being May 24th, 1883. Inside the desk is a padlock key. Considering we have the subterfuge skill, getting this item might not seem too important, but it is. For upon exiting the office, another tinny-voiced man appears, this time identifying himself as Peter Hargreaves, cat burglar extraordinaire.
The name is Peter Hargreaves. Now, who might you be?
After some talking, we have the option to have him join us as an additional party member. What might not be so evident is that he only appears after you unlock Mrs. Pilkington's desk, meaning that you can go through the entire game and not realize you can recruit him into your party, despite there only being one other potential party member. There's also the fact that even though he mentions not wanting to run into the Watchman, you can take him there immediately and neither character will have anything to say about the other.
Back again, have you? What do you need?
Speaking of the Watchman, if you come back to him after acquiring the persuasion skill, you can convince him to give you the key to the asylum proper and skip the rest of the juvenile ward. But why would anyone want to do that? No, we can return to the upper cell door area and mess with the control panel on the wall, which we can now repair with the electrical wire. This triggers a puzzle in which we have to make sure that only the light labeled C is lit. Let's try button A. Alright, now let's try button B. Oh, well, that was easy. Can't say I'm complaining though. In these newly unlocked rooms, we can find a few things scattered around, but what we're looking for is in the door second from the left. This is the Triplet Twin, our first boss enemy. We can take him on in battle if we feel we're strong enough, and if we are, it's not too difficult. But if we happen to have the occult lore skill, we can also use this conveniently placed spellbook to banish it instantly. If we've already obtained the asylum key by this point, we find a demon crest in the cell instead. Whatever the case, we should have the main asylum key at this point, so let's head back. Next up, we will enter the asylum proper.